Welcome to Obscured Reality with Mark and Stephanie. From UFO sightings to the lost city of Atlantis, from alien encounters to the living dead, each episode will leave you questioning reality. If you're ready to explore the eerie, tune in to Obscured Reality, where mysteries come alive.
Welcome back to Obscured Reality. Mark and Stevie back with you. With a different show tonight for once, man. UAP's not the topic this week or last week. I don't know. Nothing in the news yet, anyways. Nothing big. Of course, the whole Trump thing's dominating and things with that. But as obscure as that whole issue is, we're staying away from that tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight, well, I don't know. Stevie, what do you have in store for us tonight?
Well, I gotta change it up a little bit. So have you ever heard of a phrase? It actually used to be a song that kids used to sing, kind of like Ring Around the Rosie, but it was Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks, and when she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41.
I have, and you know,
have? Yeah.
I heard of it today when I was reading up on this person.
Okay, so
I've heard
apparently
of that. No,
yeah, so apparently that was like a song that like kids used to sing, kind of like Ring Around the Rosie, which is about the Black Plague. But yeah, so obviously tonight is about Lizzie Borden. So essentially, for people who don't know, she is the infamous axe murderer of Fall River, Massachusetts. This happened back in 1892. And
ooh,
yes.
over 100 years ago.
Oh yeah.
There's no ghosts in that house.
Many people care to disagree with that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Well, you'll understand why here in a minute. So for those who are not familiar, let's just set the scene. Fall River, Massachusetts in 1892 was a very quaint town. People were just getting like electricity, the electric light, gas light, stuff like that. However, this particular family was living by completely very modest means, even by their age. They did not have electric gas. They did not have indoor plumbing. They had very, very basic running water. Like it was for the kitchen, and that was essentially it.
So why was living in modest means important for the Lizzie Borden family?
Well, the father was a well-known merchant of the town who was very rich. And he was incredibly frugal to the point where his daughters, who were unmarried, felt like he did not take as good care of them as he should, as they for being the spinsters that they were. As like, you know. But hey, look, so I know, look, I get it. Our version of taking care of somebody is completely different than back then. Like in the turn of the 1800s, like fathers took care of their daughters financially pretty much their entire lives until they were married off, and then their husbands took over financial responsibility. And if their daughters never married off, the father retained financial responsibility. So that being said,
gotta get rid of her.
Well, Lizzie was 32, and she actually had an older sister, Emma, who was 41 at the time of the murders. Emma was actually not in town. She was visiting friends
Let's
in a
take a look
town.
at. Want to take a look at Lizzie Borden?
Yeah, why don't I
bring her up?
Picture? Yeah.
Let's see what a fine piece of work this young woman probably is. Let's bring her up. Right now.
Yeah, so that's why I bring up the frugality.
Whoa.
Yep. So that's why I bring up the frugality of their father, because
I see why he was frugal.
she's not a bad looking girl, I don't think, honestly. Does she have crazy eyes? Absolutely. Is she not half bad looking? Yes. I mean, there could be a lot worse.
Maybe it's the photo.
Yeah. I mean, photos of those times are pretty terrible. I mean, I'm sitting next to a pile of them, and they all look like they're just like they've seen ghosts or something in their pictures.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the dresses of the time, as you see, are very ornate, very expensive. They have lots of lace. It takes a long time to make these. So, you know, for a daughter of a wealthy merchant, having like last year's dresses and living in basic poverty is insanely embarrassing for them. So let's just set that fucking scene right there. So Lizzie's being Lizzie being
Reminds me of
32.
a song I just made up. She was a brat.
So her father was Anthony. Her stepmother is Abby. Mind you, this is her stepmother, not her mother. She makes it very clear later on in the reports that that is not her mother. That is her stepmother. And the maid that is home, her name is Bridget Sullivan. So that's our cast. So Lizzie was a very well-known person in her community. She was actually very active in the church, and she was well thought of by those around her. Emma was very much a motherly person in her life due to the loss of their mother at an early age. And like I said, she was actually out of town at the time of the murders. So, August 4th, 1892, it's the whole scene, this whole shindig starts when a neighbor sees Lizzie outside of the house, like visibly shaken, and she calls to her and asks her how she's doing, and to which Lizzie responds that her father has been killed. The neighbor then proceeds to walk over to Lizzie, and this is part of the police report, states that she does not see any blood on her whatsoever. No blood on her clothes, no blood on her hands, no blood on her face, nothing. Now, mind you, again, remember the type of dresses that they wore back then. So chaos ensues. Police are called, and they go into the house and they find Anthony Borden, basically like half laying, half falling off of a couch in the sitting room with approximately 10 direct hits to the face by a supposed 3.5-inch hatchet or axe. Yes. So at this time, while the police are in, the room with everybody. Now, this is also 1892, so when I tell you that this is a already contaminated crime scene, but it doesn't really matter because they don't have the evidence collecting like they do today, but like it was all sorts of like foobarred and chaos in there. We had neighbors coming through, we had friends coming through, we had supposed police coming through, so everything is already messed up. So as they're inspecting Mr. Borden, Lizzie's like, "Oh, I thought I just heard my stepmom go upstairs through the kitchen. We should go check on her." And so obviously, because they think the murderer's still in the house, so they go upstairs. Now, as they walk upstairs, the first room to the left, when you come to the landing of the stairs, is the guest room, and she had just gone up there to clean up the guest room because her brother-in-law was staying with them.
Okay.
And they found her face down with approximately 19 blows to the back of her skull.
Jeez.
Oh, it was obliterated. Absolutely obliterated. Long story short, they basically bring her in after a couple of days for questioning. Her story changes a couple of times, and they're just like, "Oh my god, could this woman have done this?" So they took her. They actually arrested her. Like, this was mind blowing for them at the time. Like, they were just like, "A female could do something that's horrible? Oh my god!" They just couldn't. Their little brains couldn't fathom that women could be just as terrible. Obviously, they never heard of Typhoid Mary, but whatever. So they eventually bring her in for questioning, and after a couple days of questioning, they determined that she is guilty enough to arrest under murder of her parents.
Okay.
So after about a year, in 1893, she is actually acquitted, and she and her sister inherit her father's entire inheritance,
Mm,
like the sum of about $10 million today.
wow.
Yes. And they proceed to live a very comfortable fucking life for the rest of their lives in the manner of which they believe they should have lived in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a couple of things. The stepmom, her sister, I guess, was in some financial difficulty. And Anthony decided to sign a property over to his wife's sister to help her out.
Okay.
And this apparently enraged Lizzie and Emma because they were already living in pretty much poverty. They were pretty much getting the shit out of the stick. And then he goes and bails this woman out instead of, giving them their inheritance or how they
Right.
saw it, which is how it was back then. I know it's different today and we kind of go, you don't deserve that, but that's also our standards versus their standards of living and etiquette and social whatever. So a lot of people believe that had something to do with the murder, because if it was written in that if Abby was killed first, the inheritance would go to the girls. No, if the dad was killed first, the inheritance would go to the girls. If Abby died first, all of the inheritance would go to her sister.
Mm-hmm.
So, lo and behold, ta-da, Anthony was found, Anthony was found first, and then of course, upstairs to her mother or stepmother,
Should we
Abby.
pull up some pictures of her
Please,
parents?
let's go ahead and do that.
Afterlife.
Oh yeah.
Let's pull that up right now. And this, let's start with
This
the
is
first one.
Abby.
I'm sorry, right here.
This
I think this is her dad.
Anthony. Yes, this is Anthony Borden. Now, the story is that he had gone into the sitting room to take a nap after coming back from running some errands. I personally don't think that looks like someone who was taking a nap. Now, another thing that was noted in the police report is that there is absolutely no blood anywhere in that house. Like, not on her, not on any clothes.
So, one thing I
except-
was noticing, which is hard to really say or tell from a photo like this,
Mhm.
but I would expect to see something that just immediately stands out as blood. Obviously,
Yes.
it wouldn't show as red, but I would be looking for
Yes.
pools of blood.
Splatters. Yeah.
And now again, there's a crappy photo, but that
The police
head,
reports had noted that there was no blood anywhere in
that
the
head
house
almost
except for
looks
right there.
dry. Those wounds.
No, his actually was noted that it was still seeping when they found
I'm not
it.
saying it is. I'm just saying in this photo.
Yeah,
Like,
well, it's black
you
and
would
white.
expect to
Yeah.
see that whole front of the face there.
That's
under the dark stuff, discolored from blood, and there's nothing.
No, so that was something that was noted. Is that one, the irregular position of someone who supposedly was sleeping on the couch when this happened, and also there's no blood splatter, there's no blood pooling, there's no blood anywhere on anyone, anything except for around the bodies themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's go over to Abby's picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Abby is face
Blech.
down, and as you can see, there's basically nothing left of her, the back of her skull. So, that to me, and also there's a lack of defensive wounds, and the fact that she,
You definitely see a pool of blood there.
yes. So obviously she knew the person because she didn't feel threatened enough to turn around to face them out of fear or put her hands up in defensive wounds. There's no defensive wounds. It is literally just the back of her skull and the side of her face that is obliterated. Yeah. So, some things that were brought up in court once Lizzie was actually brought in. Let me go ahead and pull it up. There's actually a couple of things. Now, again, she was also acquitted, but recently this whole case was brought up to another group of jurors who all never had heard of Lizzie Borden, just like you, previous to today. They were presented,
I've heard of her. I just didn't know the story.
well, they hadn't heard of her. It was presented to another group of jurors who were hand selected by a company that actually literally picks jurors for cases. They were presented the evidence that was the exact same evidence as presented by the original case, And this time around, the jury was hung. She wasn't acquitted, but the jury was indeed hung by just from the evidence that was presented originally. So, if it wasn't Lizzie, then who? A lot of people think that maybe it was somebody else, but it doesn't really make sense because she was the only one inside of the house at the time. But there, like I said, the brother-in-law was visiting at the time, who just showed up out of the blue, who was Lizzie's mother's brother. So it was the brother-in-law of not only her father, but her stepmother. So a lot of people find that sus. But some people think that they were working together. I don't think they were working together because he was at his niece's house at the time of the actual murders. Even though she didn't have any blood on her, like physically, there was a bucket of rags found downstairs that were covered in blood. And her reasoning for that was, it was her time of the month. And because that was like so taboo, everyone was like, can't talk about that.
Yep.
However, the day before the murders, a witness had identified Lizzie as having visited a drugstore in Fall River where she attempted to purchase a poison, prussic acid. She explained she needed to actually clean a sealskin cape. However, the druggist refused to sell it to her. Now, she actually did own a sealskin cape, so legitimately, that was a reasoning for her to be purchasing it. So that was considered coincidental and actually not brought to the attention of the jurors until later on. On the night
Which
of the
would have, that whole thing would have been important because, as the one person noted, there was no cleansing benefits to this acid.
No, it cleans sealskin capes. She owns a sealskin cape. However, it's also...
I'm going to look up what I read because what I read mentioned something, I think, for a fur.
Sealskin, yes.
But something I read mentioned she had purchased it to clean a fur, which is what an investigator or someone had pointed out was interesting because there's no cleansing properties of that particular solution she bought, so it wouldn't have.
Well, they refused to sell. Yeah, they refused to sell it to her. Prussic acid, apparently, you could get it OTC, like from the pharmacist, but then again, you could also buy straight up cocaine back in the day. So whatever. And then apparently on the night of the murders, she had the night prior to the murders, I should say, she visited a neighbor and had expressed fear to her that she was afraid that somebody was going to try to kill her father. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So apparently when Bridget Sullivan was outside washing windows, she reportedly heard a muffled laugh coming from upstairs. Now, who knows? That could have been, the stepmother before she actually was murdered, or it could have been Lizzie actually after murdering her stepmother. Who knows? But Lizzie does deny being up there. They had a strained relationship. There was a lot of coincidental evidence, which is why they ended up and also the whole oh my god, a woman could never have done this, which is why she was acquitted. But even though she was acquitted, she was completely outcast out of society. Why you wouldn't move out of Fall River when no one fucking will talk to you, I don't understand. But yeah, she and her sister ended up staying in Fall River. However, Emma did end up falling out with Lizzie later in life and moved out of Fall River. So I have a feeling that I feel like Lizzie did it. So I also feel like Emma was in on it, knew about it, but just didn't want to be home when it happened.
Right.
So because the both of them were very unhappy with how they were being, treated. Essentially, they were beyond spinster age at that point. So, but again, she was acquitted. When the whole trial was brought up to a more recent set of jurors, it was a hung juror on both accounts that she was acquitted for 100 plus years ago. So that is the story of Lizzie Borden.
So, are there any other possible people that have some weird stuff going on that may be suspect in this?
Yes. So the only other person that could have been suspect is the brother-in-law. Now, here's the thing. His niece's house was a mile away, which at the time took about 30 minutes for them to get to via carriage. So he had left early in the morning with Anthony, and they he had gone to like the post office and then went to his niece's house. Now he should have been arriving at his niece's house about the time that the murders were being taken place,
Hmm.
because he was called back shortly after 11 o'clock when Anthony was found murdered.
What's this guy's name? Or who is he to Lizzie?
He
Her
is
uncle?
uncle. Let me hang on.
Okay, so this might be John Morse.
Yes, that is
Okay.
John Morse. Now, the only way for this timeline to work for him to actually be the murderer, because she didn't have any blood on her whatsoever, is that he had to have gone to the store, acted like he had left for his nieces, come back around and like through the alleyway and like enter through the side of the house when no one was looking, gone upstairs, murdered Abby, waited in the house, murdered Anthony, escaped out the side door, went over to his niece's house. His niece had to have been in on it for her to have been like, yeah, he was with me at the time of the murder, because she was his alibi. And then for him, like, he would have had to come straight back because they would have been like, he would have had to
Right.
arrived at his niece's house like minutes before word of the actual murder.
So, the first thing I question is their methods back then. Not that their methods were bad, but just not even, I guess not the methods, wrong word. The accuracy of their methods in determining time or approximate time of death. My guess would be it wouldn't be as accurate as it is today. And who knows today exactly how accurate that is. Probably, I'm sure, way more than back then.
Yeah.
So, my point in bringing that up is I'm very curious on any possibility that this could have happened in a time frame that's a bit longer
No.
than what they're saying.
So there was, unless Bridget, the maid, was in on all of it as well, which no one thinks that she was, because she never actually like ended up with with a lot of property randomly later on. By the way, at this time in American history, income tax was not a thing, and you could literally gift and give people
Yeah.
shit tons of cash and not have to report it. So mind
Well,
you,
Lizzie, her father had a little bit prior to this given her a house, sold it to her for $1, and a few years later she sold it back to him for $5,000. Must
Yeah.
be nice to be able to do that.
yeah, you think? So there was like, in the police investigation, they did obviously speak with Miss Sullivan, and she had given an approximate times that she had last seen and spoken to Mrs. I guess Borden. She was, because she had been instructed to go wash the windows, and then she had come in shortly, like I guess after the murders. It is a really short time frame actually that it could have happened
Yeah.
in, but she was outside for about an hour, but the only other person that was inside of the house with Mrs. Borden was Lizzie.
So she did see her the day
Yes.
she died.
Yes, Abby
Okay.
literally told her after breakfast to go wash the windows. And
Right.
so like she had gone to do that around 10 o'clock. And then actually I can have that thing right here.
So
I lied.
So back to John Morse real quick. So he was a significant suspect in this case.
No.
She's his maternal uncle. What they stated was that he rarely met with the family after his sister had died. However, he did sleep in the house the night before the
Yep,
murders.
That's why she was cleaning the guest room, and he
right.
he showed up out of nowhere, like from like I think it was like Minnesota or Wisconsin. He just like showed up, and he didn't have any
Right.
he didn't have any luggage or a suitcase or anything.
I'm going to give
with
you
him.
an opinion on that in a minute.
Your
he,
opinion is probably the same as mine.
His statement to the police when he talked to them, they mentioned that he provided an absurdly perfect and over detailed alibi for the death of Abby Borden, um, which is interesting because usually when people do that and just start talking and talking, you ask them one question as a cop and they just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually because they're guilty and they're
Yep.
saying anything they can to help
Yep.
prove their side, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking on that. But if the maid or caretaker, whatever, if that's proven she had seen her that day, then that would defeat that. Now,
Not really, actually, because he very well could have left, and because he was there at breakfast when Abby told the maid to go wash the windows. He could have gone to
well,
the post office and circled back
yeah,
around while,
of
like,
course.
before Bridget had come outside, snuck inside through, like, the back door, because the back door
Yeah.
was apparently locked from the inside. Lizzie could have let him in. He could have gone upstairs while Abby was, well, not, yeah, names. Bridget was going outside to go wash the windows.
Right. Well, what I was going to say
Sorry.
was that would have ruled out the possibility of him doing this or being involved the prior evening because
Yeah.
the house taker or whatever saw her on that actual day.
And also, they all got food poisoning, by the way. Like, for whatever reason, they had noted that in the police report that around like 9:30, Bridget had gone outside to puke or some shit like that, and I was like, "What the fuck?" But yeah,
Well,
apparently they
the
had.
week prior, the whole family became ill.
Mhm.
So, like the whole week prior, they were all sick, and they think it had to do with mutton that was left on the stove for like days and days and
Yes,
days.
and I have a feeling that they're probably right about that.
Yeah, they very well could be, but
Mhm.
you know, the other thing with that is, you're talking about a wealthier family, however, living more modestly. So you know, with people like that seem a little uppity, like Lizzie, maybe her daughter, like I wouldn't expect, especially back in that day, with that type of family, seeing food just left out for days and days on the stove, something that would have to nowadays be refrigerated, right? But then
Mhm.
again, they didn't live necessarily as if they were that wealthy. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
they could just be
I
keeping with the
just
norm of what they know, you know?
Right. I mean, I swear to God, like I really thought ice boxes were a thing back then, but whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
well, so
yeah.
I got an issue with this John Morse guy. Okay, so what did you say a minute ago about John Morse? You mentioned something about him, and I said to you, I have an idea with him, something like that, and you're like, yeah, probably same as me. What were you talking about
Your opinion about him.
prior to
I
that? Yeah,
and I was like, yeah, your opinion about him is probably the same as mine. And you had
but what
voiced
were you
your,
saying prior to that?
oh, don't remember.
Oh, okay.
So here's the thing, though. I also have to point out that the night before, Lizzie and her uncle did not see each other. So if they were planning something, they had to have planned it long before via letters or however, because
Yeah,
they did not speak to each other the night. They didn't even see each other till
right.
the morning of.
Well, I recall what my opinion was, or idea, I guess. You had mentioned that John Morse had come out what seemed to be rushed or fairly quickly. He didn't pack anything.
Hmm. Oh yeah,
It
yeah.
was a quick trip. Looks like it was a last minute thing.
Mm.
And you know what that makes me think is that, okay, same with Emma leaving. He may know that this is going to happen.
Hmm.
Not saying it was him, but that could be a rush to come see him one last time without telling him what's going to happen,
Oh
or that
yeah.
Lizzie's
Oh
going to do something, because it sounds like she probably told people. And you know, let me rush out there, see him. Don't do it yet. I'll be out there that day, whatever, and you know, I'll leave in the
yeah.
morning. Um,
Yeah, no, I mean, it's more than a day trip back in eighteen
right?
92
Yeah.
from Wisconsin or wherever. I feel like the majority of the family was in on it. I feel like maybe they were upset about the way that they were treated as well after the
Mm-hmm.
death of their mother. Abby might have been a wonderful woman. You never fucking know. But they probably were upset with the way that Andrew, not Anthony, fuck, I am so sorry. I've been saying his name wrong this whole time. The way that Andrew has been fucking treating them. Ah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was Anthony. I don't know where I got Andrew from. Yeah, no, I was right. So, yeah, I feel like the niece, the uncle, the sisters, like it was just Lizzie who, like, I don't know if it was Lizzie who actually committed the murders, which is why, because there's so much circumstantial evidence, but again, the fact that there's like no blood on her
Right.
whatsoever, no blood. Like, did you not see the dresses that they wore in that picture in the beginning? Like, you
Mm-hmm.
don't just quickly change out of that.
No, you don't.
No. But she was caught burning a dress a couple days later after the funeral. And her sister, yeah, surprise. And she was like, yeah, I had paint on it. And her sister was like, yeah, I told her to burn that because it had paint on it. And that, I guess people were like, oh, well, her sister told her to do it, so it's not as weird as it,
So I
as we
don't
thought it was.
recall reading that portion. Like that portion I remember, but that part about her sister actually told her to. What I recall reading, and I could have that completely incorrect.
That was
that
something that I picked up from watching the video that they did the jury thing for.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I picked that pick of information up, was from the reader of it that I was watching.
Right.
Yeah. But either way, so she did burn a dress, but apparently her sister was like, yeah, I told her to do that. But they didn't find, when they searched the house, they didn't find anything. But then again, she could have fucking lifted up a floorboard and shoved a dress under there. But then again, once again, you would have had to shove 2 dresses under there, because you would have had to kill Abby, kill Abby, change, wait until your dad comes home, face your dad, speak with your dad, wait for him to fall asleep, then murder your father, change again, and then go get the neighbor.
So where was the maid or whatever
outside.
She was when the father was killed?
She, I think, was outside washing the window. If I remember.
I thought that was when her mother was killed.
Then I think she was. I can't remember where the fuck Bridget was when her.
Because so what's the time difference in between when the mother was killed, allegedly time of death, and when the father was? Like, are these like hours and hours apart during the day?
No. Sorry, that's my dog making noise. No, it wasn't hours and hours. It was like an hour and a half difference between the mother to the father. So, so that's the thing. I can't remember where Bridget was, but she wasn't anywhere that would put her in a suspicious point, because she had spoke with Mr. Borden, and she had quote when she spoke with police, she had quote seen Lizzie and her father speaking before retiring to different rooms. Apparently, he went upstairs to get something out of his room, which I believe he had at that point had taken the back stairs, because there was 2 sets of stairs in the house. There was Bridget's stairs, and there was the regular stairs. The back stairs were obviously from the kitchen into the main bedroom. So apparently he had gone out to the bedroom to grab something. He came back down and went to go lay down on the couch in the living room, totally passing by his dead fucking wife in the guest room. So, but I can't remember for the life of me, because it's been a couple days. I've also looked at so many different videos that have given me so much different information that does not correspond. And
so Abby had gone, so cleaning the guest room, that was one of Lizzie and Emma's regular chores. Okay. Abby, however, went upstairs sometime between 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. to make the bed. Yep. So that is kind of questionable. According to the forensic investigation, they believe Abby was at that time facing her killer at the time of the attack, right? So
I don't think she was facing her. I think that the killer, I think Lizzie came in the room And
what they're saying is when she went up there at
Oh.
that time, which typically she wouldn't, it would have been one of the daughters doing it. When she
Gotcha.
went up there at that time, basically the killer was there already in the room.
yeah,
And that could be someone from outside. That could be Abby or Emma.
Yeah.
Or Abby, sorry.
yeah,
Now, her dad's name is Andrew, correct?
Anthony.
Okay. Who's
Sorry.
Andrew?
I was wrong on the Andrew part. It's Anthony.
Well, I'm reading the article.
Did
It's
I write
Andrew.
Fucking Christ, dude! Did I really
Yeah.
write it down wrong?
So Andrew would be, my guess is the father, from what I can tell.
Oh my god! I
He
did write it down
returned
wrong.
around
Fuck.
10:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
So
and then
we
he-
know Abby went upstairs sometime between 9 and 10:30 to make the bed. He got home around 10:30. So he was home fairly quickly after she was murdered,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mhm.
Let's see here. Sullivan, the housekeeper, she went to unlock the door, finding it jammed.
Yeah, she couldn't
cursed.
let him in. Yeah.
She would later testify that she heard Lizzie laughing immediately after this. She did not see Lizzie, but stated that the laughter was coming from the top of the stairs. This was considered significant as Abby was already dead by this time and her body would have been visible to anyone on the home's second floor.
Mhm.
So now we have it, the housekeeper hearing Lizzie, and it sounds like she's upstairs. And we know that if the body was, if the mother had been murdered by that point,
Mhm.
there's no way Lizzie wouldn't have seen it. Lizzie
Yeah.
later denied being upstairs and testified that her father had asked her where Abby was, to which she replied that a messenger had delivered Abby a summons to visit a sick friend. So she kind of lied about the Abby thing. Oh, she's gone.
Yeah,
It sounds like the father was home fairly.
that's why she
quickly-
said after the father's body was found, "Oh,
Yeah.
I think I hear my mother coming in through the back door because of the message." Yeah.
Yeah. So, are there any possible motives other than the one you already mentioned about money that you are aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. Everything that I've read and watched, it is majority about the will and the money.
Mm-hmm. So, one thing that's brought up, and I don't know that this necessarily came from Lizzie at the time, but this is a theory regarding a possible motive for her, is that possibly maybe she was physically and or sexually abused by her father, which obviously you can see how that could drive her to
Physically,
want to kill someone.
probably. Yeah.
But there's little evidence to support it.
Yeah.
However, incest is not a topic that would have been discussed at the time, and the methods for collecting physical evidence would have been quite different.
Yeah.
So it's just a theory. But, if there was a little more to that, if it had been claimed by her that he had done that, then you can kind of see where maybe, I could see it,
Yeah, but there's absolutely no evidence that supports that. So, I mean,
Yeah.
what was he probably abusive? Probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe.
I personally, I feel like someone who was that frugal, who had two daughters who were very upset at the way that they were being, kept. I'm sure that he probably had a very stern hand.
Yeah. Now, do you know anything about William Borden?
No.
He is suspected to be Andrew's illegitimate son.
Oh, yeah, I did read something
uh-huh.
about that. That was discarded.
Right. This was noted
Yeah.
as a possible suspect by an author, Arnold Brown, who surmised that William had tried and failed to extort money from his alleged father. However, another author, Leonard Ribello, after extensive research on William, he proved he was not Andrew's son.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
this whole thing, it reeks to me something similar to a conspiracy theory. No pun intended, what's currently happening, but just from the basics of this, and I'm sure what I'm looking at and reading and what you're saying is more so like the basics. I'm sure there's a lot more in depth than you're going to
Yeah.
find on Wikipedia or than what you've offered, right?
Look, dude,
There's a
there's
ton, I'm sure.
so much, but the problem is that there's so many different articles, and all the articles and all the things that I watch have like information that does not correlate with the next thing. Like if you watch,
Right.
there's
Well,
a
you got to
there's
go off the facts.
yeah, that's why I kept it short and simple, because I based
Yeah.
it simply off of the confirmed information that was presented in the
Mhm.
original 1893 case.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
to me, this sounds like obviously most likely
Premeditated. Yeah,
premeditated by
absolutely.
Lizzie, and um, possibly in conjunction with Emma. Emma just didn't want to be there when it was going to happen, or Lizzie came to the decision all by her own and wound up telling Emma because they were probably close.
Mhm.
And if there was any type of abuse going on, I'm sure they were that much closer, and I'm sure they've talked about it. And if there was abuse, that could have been towards only one of them as well, not
Yeah.
the other. And
Mhm.
in that case, you'd think possibly Lizzie, and her and her sister would probably talk. And that could, even though her sister's a different person, she may still feel, man, I wish this guy was dead. However, she would never have the balls, the brains, the wherewithal, or the
To
want
do
to
it
actually
herself.
murder
Yeah.
someone, right? However, being close with her sister and talking about something like that, if that was the case, I could totally see at some
Mhm.
point Lizzie's fed up and, well, I'm going to tell her I'm going to do it, right? And then you got the other guy, who was it, John Morse, that shows
Mhm.
up, and it appears kind of a quick show up, like a last minute thing. Um, and then him splitting that morning while everyone's still alive. It, you know,
Well, he
it's
was
all,
actually supposed to come back for lunch later that day. He was
yeah.
invited
Well,
back. Well,
right. It's all family, right?
yeah.
And what I'm seeing is there might be some closeness or not, but a feeling that's shared by all of them that they all very well may hate this guy, the dad,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh,
and
that's exactly how I feel.
yeah, and it's okay, you're gonna do that, all right, cool, because we'll get money, and
Mhm.
cool because he's a dick.
Yeah. And no one's
But
gonna know. No one's gonna
right,
fucking know. Like,
right, and
no,
then
you don't have to report giving
but
money
before
to
you
anybody. And that $10
but
million
yeah,
dollars? Fuck.
yeah, but before you do it, let me show up, dinner with them, maybe breakfast, whatever, can see them one last time and
Yeah.
remember them how I saw them that time, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, uh,
Mm.
but here's the other thing. Then why would she kill her mother?
Stepmother.
True.
She hated her.
Yeah, I see
She
why.
hated her. She
It's a
hated
stepmother.
her. They didn't
Right.
even eat. They didn't dine together. Like, it was noted that she like, and also there was an
Well,
argument. She,
Lizzie and Emma never dined with the parents, either of them.
yeah, but well, they would dine with the like. I'm sorry, if they would dine with their father, they would. But yeah, because the stepmother was there, they would not dine with them, no matter what, not even for breakfast. But it was also noted that prior to, like, a month or so prior to the murder, there was a disagreement in which Emma and Lizzie left for a while, and upon returning, Lizzie actually stayed in a boarding house for 4 days before actually returning home because she was still so upset.
Yeah.
So disagreements were definitely a thing in that family.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I feel like the entire family absolutely hated him because of the way, like, probably because of the way that he didn't keep the daughters correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold
But
on.
I really think John Morse is the killer.
You think so?
Yes.
You think he stuck around and he did it?
Yes.
And that would make sense because most of the stuff that would need to be cleaned up, take with him. What's he driving? A wagon? A Ford wagon?
Exactly. Not only that, but the strength. I mean, does she have the strength? Absolutely, she has the strength to fucking
Yeah.
hack the shit out of somebody. But the lack of blood on her,
Mm-hmm.
just leads me to believe, and that's why the jury was hung the second time around, because one person was like, I can't proclaim guilty because she had no blood on her and it's all circumstantial evidence. Everyone else
Right.
said guilty. She said not guilty. So jury was hung on both accounts.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. I completely agree with that.
Yeah. Jeez, glad I wasn't there.
Yeah. Like, obviously, DNA collection, never was a thing, never wasn't a thought, but like also
Well, of
just the
course.
contamination of the scene with everybody and their fucking mom running through the house and like
Mm-hmm.
being there with the cops while shit was going on.
Yeah, if it was nowadays, if this happened, and it was a question of was it a male or female that did it, they probably already have ballistics tests showing, in that molded stuff to mimic a
Yep.
human body,
Impact.
an axe penetrating a skull from a male swinging it at, just an average male swinging it
Mm-hmm.
versus an average female swinging it.
Mm-hmm.
And you could probably, you're not going to get exact. There's some women that are ridiculously strong
Oh yeah.
and more aren't as strong.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have males, which are just genetically speaking stronger than women, right?
Yeah.
So you could at least get some type of average for both of, depth,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but
But after
you kind of got to
19
look at the
wax,
person also. Yeah, there's
you
people
know.
that are super strong that don't look ridiculously
Yeah.
strong either. So,
But after 19 wax,
know.
I mean, there wasn't
Well,
much
yeah.
to go on at that point. But
Yeah, of course.
so
Yeah.
final thoughts, man?
19
19 to her, 10 to
feels like hate.
personal. Shit's personal, man.
Yep,
Yep.
exactly. Yeah. So you're on that same line of thinking then, sounds like.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think she told them, or they're all just in on
They're
it.
all in
But
on it.
if
But I
they
do
are all
think
in
John
on
Morris is the killer.
it, yeah, if they are all in on it, then I think partially money had to play.
Yes.
I don't think that was the main reason for it. However, I think that was a secondary reason that helped people be okay with it.
I think it was the treatment.
Help them to make the decision to do it.
Absolutely.
At least there's some type of benefit if I don't get caught.
It's motive. It's it's motive for it's perfect.
Yeah, I think there's a couple. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
But hey, just so anyone who has stuck around to the end wants to check out the Lizzie Borden house themselves, they are actually more than welcome to. It is currently a bed and breakfast that you can rent the rooms and stay a night at.
Where's that at? Massachusetts?
Fall River, Massachusetts.
Damn.
Yep.
Won't be going there anytime soon. I wouldn't mind checking it out.
Yeah, the Lizzie Borden house is a bed and breakfast, so feel free to contact them. Not a sponsor. And stay there. Let us know if you have any, ghostly interactions with Lizzie, Abby, or Andrew himself. That would be freaking cool. There has been a lot of notated paranormal activity there. They have replicas of both of their skulls on display, and it is a fully redone in the style of the time house. Nothing is original to the house, but it is all done in furniture of that time. So it definitely brings back the paranormal.
That old eerie feeling.
Oh yeah.
Just imagine in 150
and then
years,
there's pictures of like the murder all over the walls.
People will be building up rooms to look like rooms today.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, "That's so fucking eerie." In their flying cars.
Jesus, God, I don't even want to think about that.
God.
Yeah.
Hey, you don't have to because you'd be dead.
Thank God.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, with that, first order of business, obscuredr1@gmail.com. That's our email. If you have a personal story of your own, you've seen something odd, don't know what it was, UFO, possibly alien interaction, Bigfoot, you have a relative of the Bordens, right? Shoot us an email. We will tell your story for you on here. Type story in the subject line. Tell us your story. We'll do it anonymously. If you want to come on the show, let us know in there as well. It's simple, super simple to do for you. You don't have to worry about it. It's easy. Yes, Stephanie?
Don't forget to ring that bell as well. Don't forget to tell them about that damn bell.
Yeah, but before you hit that bell, make sure you like, share, and subscribe as well. All right. Well, that's Lizzie Borden.
Mhm.
I think she was atrocious, and so was her personality and
Yep.
axe abilities. With that, we're out.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check back with us often for new episodes. Feel free to drop a comment, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Obscured Reality.